So this is
Let's.
this what we're doing here is something called, but that's not important right now, where we get to talk about our adventures slash misadventures in advertising. And
Ooh.
here with us is an advertising maven, really. He's been in it far longer than I have. Ian Reed, and of course Jarrod Butts. That's me. So we're going to be talking a set of unholy about advertising, and and some of it was good stuff. It has to be said that we did some good stuff as well. But the anecdotes that we have with respect to advertising, some of it, when we look back on it, can be considered downright funny. And we often wondered what possessed us to do something like that. Now, in some instances, we've had situations where we've succeeded, and then again, there's some situations that that just proved to be separate and distinct Waterloos. One I can remember, and this was years ago. This was like about a decade ago. We did something for a particular brand of laundry detergent. Remember? And
We did laundry detergent.
yeah, we did it. We did something. We did a campaign for laundry detergent. I think you were a part of it as well. And
Laundry detergent.
you remember? No, you don't.
No, keep
It
going.
was-
It might come to me. Remember, keep going.
Okay, because it was called because I don't think the brand exists anymore. It was known as Snap, and we came up with a cute little tagline. Washing used to be a breeze, which is a play on the word breeze. Washing used to be a breeze. Now it's a snap, and we showed the concept. We did everything possible to convince the client that yes, this is the best thing since sliced bread. We said it was tough on dirt. It shows dirt no mercy. It is the best thing that you could use as an alternative to washing your clothes. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the detergent came packed in little pods. I think this was before Tide Pods became famous and stuff, like really famous and started taking off. So, and no matter what we did, the client was not satisfied. We just came up with all sorts of ideas and concepts, and no matter what happened, no matter what we did, I think we could have come up with the Holy Grail itself, the Ark of the Covenant, and he would not have liked it. And it was very frustrating, over a period of time. And that was the one thing that really kind of wasn't so much funny, but I mean it was really depressing because we really tried hard. But again, one thing I also remember, and this is funny. We did a campaign for a particular bank, and this it involved dogs. And it went. Now we tried to come up with something like oh God, how did it go again? It was about celebrating potons, mutts, if you will, mixed breed dogs, and it went like da 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 da, and then they started wondering, well, maybe a poton is not the right kind of dog for our brand. And I said, but that's the ideal dog, because that's the average Trini dog. And then they realized, well, wait a minute. We're doing this ad, and it's going to be, aired and printed in radio and in various media throughout the Caribbean. So we're going to have to come up with a different type of dog for each Caribbean territory. So I'm thinking, wait a minute. So what? You're trying to tell me that we're going to have a German Shepherd for Barbados? Yeah, German Shepherd for Barbados, a Boston Terrier for Jamaica. I mean, what is it? And then one of the key people from the bank actually disappears from the meeting, and she comes back with a huge book, an encyclopedia on dogs. And she tells us maybe we should use this dog for Barbados, Maybe we should use this dog for Suriname, and maybe we should use this dog for Guyana. And we're looking at her in utter amazement. And then, because it was supposed to be a Christmas ad, we had to change the words in certain ways because, again, Christmas is not celebrated universally across the Caribbean. There are little permutations to every territory.
Yeah.
So we had to change the wording for that.
Yeah.
The one thing that really got to me was the dog,
Yeah.
because we could, and I thought to myself, it's just an ad. It's just a Christmas ad. All we wanted to do was come up with a Trinity Potong, nothing else. It didn't have it just did not take. It just degenerated into a disaster. We were just talking about all breeds of dogs, and they said no, we can't use no. Well, one thing that we all agreed upon was that we could never use the pit bull because the pit bull just had a really negative reputation.
Yeah.
So there's that is what I can recall, and.
That is I mean, that particular client is a gold mine of hilarious presentation stories.
Oh yeah, sure.
When we presented for one of the accounts, we presented Benny's. Now I can't say what the account is because then that would reveal who the client is. So we still have to decide whether we want to reveal the client or not. Well, I mean, I think if people request, we want to know who the client is, and enough people demand it. I mean, this is almost 10, 20, 15 years ago. That particular client in question, the one who brought the encyclopedia, I know who exactly that is, and she was, bless her heart, she was a wonderful person, but she overthunk everything. Everything was an overthink.
The overthinking.
But it wasn't her fault because she wanted to make sure that the campaigns definitely worked, and they I mean, it led to me to remember that in the past they would use a lot of research data that they gleaned from each of their markets. And so how it worked in these big companies is that the marketing managers for each one of the territories, because I remember going to another big client's conference, and one of the salespeople in the conference said, I cannot use this ad in Barbados. And I said, but why not? She said, because if I use this ad in Barbados, they will laugh at me. They would say I'm talking rubbish because you are Trini trying to tell a Bajan in a way how to buy the product. And I was flabbergasted. But then coming back to this particular client in that story about the dog, this person also said in another meeting that people won't understand this ad because they don't have cable. So we were, and the list goes on. So if you want to thematically present clients who have said strange things in meetings, the most famous one was a particular client, bless his heart, in a consumable client production, consumable client. They sell consumables. We pitched the idea of using a brown chicken in the creative, and he spends the entire time just writing, and he didn't look up once. He didn't even look at the creative. He was just writing. He was writing, and then he said, and then he when everybody had paused and kind of trying to absorb whatever, he looks up and he says, I would just like to make one comment. And he has this kind of bass voice, and not to be confused with another client who we had who had a bass voice. This was a much older client. And he said, do you know that people are afraid of brown chickens? And that was the end of the conversation. The creative director stared at him, and the client herself, the marketing manager, stared at him. and he's in charge of sales. So like he's in charge of sales. So you had the sales people who had the opinion. You had the marketing manager who had opinion. You had other people in the meeting who had opinions. And we were just there with blink, blink, blink. Like, what do you even respond to for that? How do you even come back from that? And that is a famous, very, very famous joke that we've told overall, while pitching ideas.
Yeah. You know, you work in the industry long enough, it will drive you to drink, huh?
But you are unique, Jarrod, because you have worked on both sides of the fence. You have been on the media side. You have had to read some of these, so not just read it live. You have to do the read live. You also have to go. You went into the studio and recorded some of this crap that these people wrote, and then you have to write it. You have a very unique. You have a very unique experience.
I've always believed if you're in advertising, you got to believe in the crap that you're doing. You got to believe in it. Now, it's not a foolproof kind of mechanism. Just let me hasten to add.
Yeah.
I remember a very famous advertising misstep happened. Not with the agency where we used to work, but this was happening in the early 2000s. Now, back in the 80s, there was a very popular brand. I think we can mention it. A popular milk brand, and the brand itself, Smilk, involved cats, and. No, and it went very well. It worked very well. It was a British ad campaign. Cool for cats. Beautiful, wonderful.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, in the year 2001, by 2001, somebody came up with a bright idea to come up with an ad for Smilk, local.
Right.
It was animated and everything.
Yeah.
But what happened was they decided to use cows. Natural, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cows, milk. Perfect.
Yeah.
Except for one thing. The cows were male. Now, picture this.
Wait, hold on. How do you mean the cows are male?
No. I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So you have the cows, wearing the sunglasses and everything, and you're hearing this deep voice going, "Now, Smilk is milk." And you could have it right now if you wanted to. I'm looking at this thing, I'm thinking, wait a minute. Has it ever occurred to the client that these cows are male? And then somebody, a couple of weeks later, wrote in the Sunday Express, okay, let's get this out of the way one time. You do realize that the cows in this milk are male, right? And if they're male, then they're bulls. So what the hell are you really selling? And before long, they realized the mistake that they had made. The client realized the mistake that they made, and they pulled the ad. They pulled the ad campaign, the print ad campaign, radio campaign, TV campaign, and what was that all about? I mean, nobody even had the common sense to say, "Hey, fellas, we really shouldn't be doing this, because the cows are male, they're bulls." We can't have an ad campaign where we want to milk the bulls. That just don't sound right. I think that was a classic, and I'm sure that wherever that ad that still exists somewhere in TNT, it's probably gathering dust as we speak. But somebody needs to revive that ad just to show what happens when ad campaigns go wrong. And I don't know. I mean,
it's not just when ad campaigns go wrong. It's that nobody seemed to have. It's a kind of an extreme take on what we call the printer's devil. So in the experience of the print, so we have to say now that you are on the writing side. I don't think we explained that before. So to those of us, for those of you listening who have not understood this, Jarrod was on the writing side, and I was on the art side. So
you were the art and I was the writing.
So we have a famous saying on the art side is that we are not writers, so we don't give a about what's written. We just style the can we curse on this thing? We could style the effort, So the writers write this stuff, and we put it into the ad without even a second thought. So the radio producer is like in the studio going, okay, let's go ahead. So everybody from the client go down to the point where you're ready to read the ad. Nobody is picked up on the fact that the cows are supposed to be female. And that is an extreme version of Printer's Devil. Printer's Devil is that you have spelled the word C-O-M-E as C-U-M throughout the entire document, right? And nobody's picked it up. Nobody's picked it up because everybody's just so worried about how it looks and how it's going to be presented and how many copies and how much this is going to cost. And nobody's thinking of the ramifications of what is. I'm trying to remember if there was ever a point where a printed document went out and there was something on it. Okay, so I remember one year, bless his heart, Anthony Burnley, he's my best friend. I think if he hears this, he would probably call me and say, I want you to take this down immediately, I'm going to sue you. Anthony, it's all in good fun, don't worry, we've all been there. We have been in this situation where we have been there at 1 o'clock in the morning trying to get a poster finished for a campaign that was supposed to start practically the next day for Carnival. And we have this poster ready to go, and nobody from the client go right down to the printer realize that on the Coca-Cola poster for Carnival was "Come and meet Destra."
Oi!
Come and meet Destra. Big in the headline. Printed about 2,000 of these posters to go out on the trade, or 20,000, whatever it is. And the account executive, who's now a vice president of a big company now, bless her heart, I love her to death too, she says, guys, we really need to make sure that we check these things before they go out. And nobody could figure out. Anthony is staring at the poster like, what is wrong with this poster? Is something wrong with the face of the person in question? Is something wrong with the product? What's going on? Until somebody said, I think it was Anjali was a copywriter then. I don't know if you know Anjali. She was before your time. Anjali said, that's not how you spell Destra. Destra is D-E-S-T-R-A. You have it as D-S-T-R-E-A or some it was not even a letter flipped. It was the whole thing was just jumbled. It started with D and ended with A. that was the close.
That is just one of the things that we took great pains as writers to make sure that we never fell into that kind of trap.
Yeah.
And we were more concerned about the grammar and the syntax and all the other things associated with writing an ad, and we were just very particular about that. We're not gods, but at the same time, when we fuck up, we fuck up, and we have to admit it. And so I can understand where people would say that, oh my God, what were we thinking? And that's just the point. Some of us just don't think. And some of us work, again, I'm not knocking, what I used to do, but sometimes it can be, sometimes it could have been pretty nerve-wracking. And we had to make sure that we didn't have any sort of missteps along the way, which for us, I mean, were few and far between, thank God.
We've been there. I mean, I have been in situations where I was brought to tears many times because of mistakes that I should have picked up on. And looking back, I mean, this is even before I worked with you, even in that company. It's not, sometimes it's not all fun and games. It's extreme mental stress, you see. I remember working for my first ever job in an agency. I think you remember. They're still around, so I don't want to name them, and they know who they are. My first ever job, I we were in the heat of a Christmas rush. This was Christmas.
Ooh, yeah.
We had Westmall as a client, and we had to produce this Westmall catalog. And this is the first time that I had ever been involved in a project of that size. And we talking, this is 95, this is 97, 98. This is way, so digital production of these things is still in its nascent stages. We in the Caribbean weren't where the other people were at this stage. I mean, you didn't have a workflow for this thing. I didn't even know what a workflow was in those days. All I knew is they gave me a job and I did it. And one of the things that had to be put into this document was a coupon. And the coupon came from one of the shops. So each one of these shops in Westmall was paying for the catalog. And one of these shops decided that they would pay a little extra to put this coupon that you would then take to the store. And the store is still around, so I don't want to name them. But okay. I might have to because of the well, I don't need to name them, not in hindsight. But just to make this long story short, we went through the entire process right up to the end where you had to make. So in those days, you had to make negatives, which cost a lot of money to print this coupon. The coupon was just one color. So anybody who knows how printing works is that you create. It is almost it's like a reversed version on black with transparency, like the transparency that you put on one of those projectors. So the way it works is that whatever's black gets etched onto the plate, but then when you run the print, it then prints right way. So the reverse prints right way. It's like printing with a potato. You know how to print with a potato. You take ink, put it on the potato, and then you print a little star. You print a little piece of shit, whatever it is, right? So you make these negatives, and they cost a lot of money because it's film to produce, and then you make the plates. And nobody caught up until the making of the of the negatives that the name of the company was spelled wrong, because I had been given the name, I put the name into the coupon, we designed the coupon, nobody, not even the client knew. He approved it. This is the thing, huh? He approved it. Everybody approved it. It got to the point where the negatives were made, and then while I think it was a Friday evening, or I think must have been I can't remember the day. It must have been a Wednesday or Friday. It was an evening, and the head of the department, not the head of the department, she said the office manager. You would know her, but. She was a pig. She was always a pig. She was not a nice person at all. She told me around 4 o'clock. She said, "I have another job for you. Wait for me. I'll give it to you." And everybody else in the office had left except me and her. And she left me there. This is before internet and stuff. We didn't have internet in the office and all that. We kind of just So I was sitting down there in that office till about 7. She left me waiting there till about 7. And then I came out of the department and I saw her sitting down and I said, is there anything else? You asked her to wait, it's now 7 o'clock, what's going on? And she said, you will have to wait a little bit longer. And I'm like, but what are we waiting on? What project are we waiting on? And this is a mind game. And I said that, I mean, I'm only 21, 22 years old. I mean, I'm young in the business. And I said,
you're a kid.
I said, okay. So I sat down there for another 20 minutes. And then she calls me on the phone. She doesn't actually come into the department. She calls me on the phone, which is strange because the phone is like a shared phone. And I said, yes, hello. And she said, come outside and talk to me. I'm like, okay. So I come outside and I sit at her desk. And I'm like a school child. And she's like, could you look at these negatives and approve them? I said, well, I've approved these negatives already. I mean, I've already looked at it. She's like, you're going to let that go? I'm like, what is wrong with it? I don't know. And it's about 6:30 night. I am tired as fuck. I am literally falling asleep on myself. And I'm like, because I have been there since 8 in the morning, I mean, later on in later days at the other agency, we'd done later times and whatever. But in those days, I hadn't been used to this kind of hours. And I said, well, what's wrong with it? She said, so she starts screaming at me. You need to tell me that you're not even looking at this thing. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? And then she said, you spelled the name of the company wrong. You spelled it wrong. I'm like, I didn't spell anything wrong. I took it from the printout, which I didn't keep. And from that day on, I kept everything. I kept everything. I said, what are you talking about? I got a printout. She's like, it's your fault. And you have to pay for this. And she's screaming at me. And I'm like, but I've never been spoken to in this way. Not even in Fatima. No one has ever spoken to me like this. And I didn't know what to do. And I'm like, so what would you like me to do? She said, well, now we have to fix it. I'm like, but this is an easy fix. It's just an easy fix to go in. She's like, and you have to pay for this. I'm like, well, what do you mean by pay for this? This has to come out of your pay for the next month. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, if that's the case, fine. But in those days, I would have never fought that kind of battle. I would have fought it later on. I would have said, no, I'm not going to do that. No, you can't do that because you gave me a piece of paper that spelled the name like this. And I distinctly remember to this day seeing that paper, seeing the spelling of the name. I mean, the name wasn't even, the letters weren't even reversed in the case of Destra. You know, it wasn't like that. It was actually spelled a completely different way. And like, but you are blaming me for basically your failure of a workflow. And it's only much later. I mean, this has happened to me after. It's just that it hasn't hit me as hard because I strengthened my resolve after that. And I've also been able to fight back. Like 1 year while I was at our company, the creative services manager, you remember the creative services manager, who is now our best friend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? He started buffing me up about a poster that came out printed badly. And I said, really? Here's the printout that was sent. It did not look anything like this. So he called the printer in, and the printer said, yeah, that was a problem on our side. So if I didn't have that printout, or I didn't have some proof to show that it was correct before it went to the printer, they would have thrown me under the bus, which is what happened to me at that time. And after that, it had done three things to me. It had destroyed my confidence. It had destroyed my ability to work because I was always constantly afraid that this person in the work was going to, and about a month later or 2 months later, they got rid of me. And the way they got rid of me was very disgusting. They said, you have to pack up your stuff and we have to observe what you pack up so you don't take anything. I'm like, what am I going to take? A stapler? What am I going to take? Paper? What the hell? You know? Company's still around, so I don't want to, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. But the thing about it is that I have heard so many horror stories of the mental anguish brought on by working even now. I go and follow Agency Insider on Instagram. I follow the other agencies, and all of these people, and young people too, they're complaining we have to work until 2 in the morning. And 2 in the morning, the client comes back and says, we don't like any of this shit, start over. You know, I mean, when we were working for cable and wireless, the cable and wireless people were always constantly unimpressed with our work, and it caused everybody in that team to just collapse under the sheer weight and strain of mental fatigue. Because, like you said in the beginning, you could have presented like Snap. I don't remember Snap. Wait, Snap is the little balls, like the things that you had to, it wasn't powder detergent. It was like a little ball. Ah, right, I remember Snap now. I do remember
Snap.
Now?
Yeah,
you could have presented whatever you wanted. The point of the matter is it wasn't you. It wasn't the agency. It was just politics. You know,
it's just politics more than anything. Yeah.
So to come back to the mental anguish part of it, it's that it does teach you, but it also reduces the fun I mean, we could laugh and make fun of what is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to get too serious about this thing. I mean, we want to be a little light-hearted, but
They just wanted to be lighthearted, and that's the whole point of it. The whole point of the creative process is to have fun,
yeah,
to have serious fun in what you do, to love what you do.
yeah,
And there were times when we had a lot of fun doing what we did.
Yeah.
We enjoyed it. We did it tremendously. We had
Yeah.
good days.
Yeah.
But then there were times when, if you really look back on what had happened and how certain things had unfolded, it made you question on a daily basis. My God, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Maybe I really did. Maybe I did a ton load of shit.
yeah,
And maybe they're right, and maybe I'm not suited for this kind of profession at all.
Yeah.
And it makes you second guess yourself a lot.
yeah.
And
I mean, I'm looking at the people who are still at the company, who have been there
Yeah.
for just as long as I was. I mean, I was there for 18
Yeah.
years. You were there for about what, 5?
I was there. No, I was there for about 8.5 years.
8 years. And
8 years.
and I'm looking at the people who are still there, and I'm like, I don't know how you could still do it, because one of our mutual friends who used to work in our team, Lizelle told me when she left and she got another job at another agency, she said, you don't know until you leave. And that's important, because I think it is a blessing when these things happen, that
Yes.
when you get out now, you literally open the window and you start seeing the birds flying around, and you go, wow, I mean, it's a challenge. You starve, you collapse, you cry, you want to say you want to give up, you want to go and get back your old job and all of that. But the thing is, you look and you say, how are these people still mentally there? How can you still be mentally in that position and thrive? It's okay to get paid. It's okay to earn a living, but you don't thrive. You don't move on. You don't progress. You don't evolve.
Yeah, exactly. My foolish. When I got there, when I was at the company, I foolishly believed that once you got there, you could use that as a stepping stone to see if you could somehow transition to one of their affiliates overseas. That was my thought. That was my thought when I started. So that I could use that as a stepping stone. How wrong I was.
Yeah.
And
not everybody's cut out for it. Not everybody's cut out for it. I mean,
not everybody's cut out for it.
You can do it, but you have to have that certain kind of mindset, and I call it I don't want to use that word. It's a bad man mindset. It's a bad man mindset where you are really not caring about anything except making the money, and that is fine. That's perfectly okay if that is who you are, and if that is who you are, and you know that's who you are, and you're okay with that, by all means, props to you. But there's some people who cannot handle the backstabbing. They cannot handle the politics. They just want to produce good work. You just want to produce.
It's a different kind of animal. It's a different kind of animal.
Yeah. So my advice to anybody who is looking to get into advertising, because a lot of people always ask, what do you want? How can I get into advertising? First, ask yourself if you can handle it. You see, that's always what I tell people. You can handle stress. You can handle people shitting on you every day, and people shouting at you, and people misbehaving, and can you handle alcoholism? That's that next thing. I didn't understand alcoholism until I got into advertising.
Wow. That's a bit of a revelation there.
Yeah, it's true.
That's a revelation there.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, with me, it was different, because with me, when I knew something was wrong when I started to masturbate more than usual.
All right, okay. All right, to my kids listening, Jarrod, the kids listening. I'm gonna have to mute this. It was like a burp. What sound effect should I use here?
But seriously speaking, the thing about it is, and I thought this is so disconcerting. The difference between radio. I mean, I've been in radio a long time, and advertising is that in radio and media, you know who you're dealing with. The devil, you know who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
You can handle that. The pitfalls and the setbacks in a particular way that it can just roll off of you.
Yeah.
And you just continue doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But advertising is an entirely different beast.
Yeah.
And because if you stick your neck out in the creative process and you win, that's fine. But if you stick out your neck again from a creative standpoint and you lose, that is when it start to collapse in on you.
Yeah.
And it also depends too on how well you can curry favor with the higher ups.
Yeah.
If you can curry favor with the higher ups and you can have you have a really good rapport, and sometimes that rapport can be a bit questionable.
Yeah.
You're okay. You end up. And what I couldn't understand as well is how in an environment like that there was this kind of competitive spirit that it took on a kind of meanness, if you will.
Yes.
Where somebody could always end up winning,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there wondering, but I thought I'd come up with it, and then you realize from that point on, the whole concept, the whole procedure was just rigged.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do a damn thing to stop it.
Yeah. When I got the opportunity to work with the third agency, I wouldn't even call them an agency. I don't even know what they are. And again, not naming names. You know who they are. When I started working there, the major problem was it wasn't very clear what my job role was, and they never really made it clear. But if I were to give myself a job role there, that coming down to the end, I was a creative director. I was managing the creative output coming from the department, and it became a point where I told myself, and my philosophy was always that I am not going to do what I have experienced in my life under a creative director.
Yeah.
Where you just as you said, you had to behave in a certain way, you had to do certain things to be able to get ahead. And I didn't feel that I didn't want anybody working under me who needed to do that. Now nobody there working under me is the same. It's not the same thing. But I told myself I would be different in the way I managed people, because I didn't want people to experience what I experienced in my 18 years of working in the agency business. I wanted to do it differently. And my philosophy is, if you come with a good idea, we'll explore it, we'll do it, and we'll work at it to the best of our ability. And I am not the one to go and take credit for it. It was your idea. You brought it to life. You are the one who should get the kudos for it, right?
Exactly.
But there are people who needed to have their name on it because of their position, because of where they are, and because they needed to feel that they and I felt it too sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It's important that you get into the spotlight, because then that gives you more opportunities come, more avenues open for you. That's important. But at the stage of letting a young person feel that they have contributed towards something great or meaningful or whatever is more important to me. That if you feel accomplished, that this looks absolutely fantastic and I'm proud of it, that makes me feel good. You see?
Good.
But it had reached a stage where what we were doing just kept getting shitted upon by the management. The management kept shitting on it because they didn't know what they were doing. They had no idea what they were doing. It's a whole separate discussion. But towards the end, I was completely disillusioned, because I had gone right back into somebody above me was shitting on me, and then now I have to go and shit on the people underneath me, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to. I was screening. I was taking on a lot of stuff onto myself, so that my people under me wouldn't feel any pressure, and that was driving me crazy. And when I explain that to the people in management, they cuss me off and they tell me, that's your job, that's what you have to do. I'm like, all right, well, fine, I go on. Because I don't want to do this anymore. I don't feel that you in the management feel that you're sharing the position with the rest of us. And that is what I look for in a company. That if we feel that we're all in this together, even if it is kind of okay, it's kind of what's the word? Not in reality true. Even if you get the feeling that we feel that we're all in this together.
But the impression has got to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, if we could just take a page from how certain places are, what they're like overseas and stuff like that. Now, granted that it's not all idealistic. It's not all rosy or anything like that.
Yeah.
Far from it. But at least the impression is there that hey, you at least have a fighting chance to come up with an idea, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's always a question. It's always a question of egos, of clashing egos, and how does one manage it?
Yeah.
How does one manage it, and to try to be as detached from it as one can get.
Yeah.
And after a while, I mean, I don't know how it affected you, but with me, it was a simple case of just detaching from the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not really getting into the culture of it. But it's sad because we've got a lot of creative individuals. I have had the pleasure of working with I was very fortunate in that we work with a lot of creative individuals, a lot of talented individuals, a lot of gifted individuals, and they've, and the sad part about all of it is that they've never really gotten the kind of accolades that they so richly deserve, because there was this guy who used to work in animation. He was absolutely brilliant, and in fact his work started earning him awards and stuff like that. I don't know what he's doing now, but back then he was an incredible force. Maybe he still is. I don't know, but I've never seen any of his work to say, hey, it's so good to know that it's so gratifying to know that he's doing that. And you should be happy. I mean, you should be happy for him or her.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, what I'm saying is I still keep in contact with a lot of the people that I have, who have passed through the industry. And I may not see eye to eye with everybody. And especially some of them irritate the shit out of me. Some of them have actually blocked.
That's a given.
Because I have an issue with wokeness, and some have just gone completely woke, and I'm like, look, this is not about trying to build the industry or trying to build, because so just as an aside, we started the Creative Guild. Anybody who doesn't know, we started our little group where we're trying to see if we can. And it's not just graphic artists or artist animators, it's everybody within the creative field, which is very broad, but we want to try to get people to understand that what you do is worth something. There is a worth attached to what you do. And one of the things that I recognized way back in 2015, 2016, is that when I started doing the Google certification courses in digital advertising, I realized it was no longer about creativity. Just as, I mean, I don't want to, we're coming on to a long time now, but one of the other stories was we sat down in a bank meeting, a big bank meeting, and the guy in charge of digital, who's in charge of the digital advertising, he was looking at the creative director like, I don't know why you're here. We don't need creative here. We know what the creative is already. You take 5 images of people getting a key for a car, and you plug it into the campaign, and you see which ones get the most clicks. That is a completely foreign thing to a creative director. A creative director knows that if I do this really cool visual with this, if I make this, let's see, what was the latest ad that was done? If I have a lion running in the savannah chasing a man, that would get people to buy the product. And you go, yeah, but what Google is saying now is if you take that lion running in the savannah and you put a picture of a phone and you run those two ads together, which ad is going to get the most clicks? And if the one with the phone gets the most clicks, that's the one we're going to put the money into and stop running the one with the lion running in the savannah. And nobody, the ad industry has not figured that out, and that is since 2015. That's since 2015. Now it is even worse now. Google certification is actually, there's nothing about how to create a creative ad other than make your headline 5 or 6 words short and be very clear about what you want to say. And I'm like, but there's nothing creative in the sense of the classic creative in a press ad. There's nothing like that anymore. Google has totally changed. Facebook has totally changed the advertising landscape. I forget how I got onto this topic, but the point is that you want people to understand that creativity is still there, but it has shifted and moved. It's now in a different sphere. So what I tell writers is that writing the ad is no longer that important as writing the landing page that the ad goes to. So if you get interested in the ad and you click the ad, it goes to something that they get the information that they're looking for. But if you write it in a certain way and you put it forward in a certain way in a long form, you remember in the old days, in the 60s, long form press ads were the thing. You know what a long form press ad is, right? It's
refresh my memory.
So a long form press ad, you know it from the mid-century advertising group. If you look at a lot of the ads, it's a lot of copy. There's a lot of copy. And then Chiat and Day and all these other ad agencies in the 70s and 80s started throwing that out and saying, no, it's the punchy headline and the short thing, because people have short attention spans because the competition in papers is very high, right? But it's switching back now. Online, you now have the ability to go back to this long form, and I keep telling writers who have grown up writing, trying to squeeze down information into an ad that fits with all this empty white space. You're not doing that anymore. You go into a website where you put a visual and you put some little icons and you put the pricing and you put why should I buy this product? Why should I give you this thing? Why should I download this? Why should I do any of these things? Give me a reason to. And
go on.
And that is what advertising was. Advertising was always give me a reason why I should buy your product, why I should follow your brand. And now it's even more so. But the ad industry hasn't seemed to have figured it out yet. We're still in the let's show a lion running through the savannah because it shows that I could call somebody at any time. No, that doesn't give me a reason. What is the reason? When I click this ad to go to something, where's the payoff? You see?
Mm-hmm. Understood. I mean, it was like, the thing about it is when it comes to in any job or any sort of undertaking that they want to embark upon, everything old is new again. So it was like what this guy, one of the more famous ad men from the 50s and 60s, a guy by the name of Rosser Reeves. I'll never forget what he said. He said, if you're doing a product, if you're advertising a product, make the goddamn thing interesting.
Yeah.
Make the product interesting.
Yeah.
Make people want to know, well, why is it that, because Rosser Reeves was the guy behind M&M's. He came up with the practical. He was more concerned about the practicality of the ad itself.
Yeah.
He wasn't so much concerned about winning awards, but he was more concerned about the efficacy of the ad and the potency behind it. So for M&M's, he realized from very early on that the candy itself would not melt as quickly as the other candies would, the chocolate candies. So he came up with the tagline, "The candy that melts in your mouth, not in your hand."
Yeah.
And that took off. The sales started going up because of the tagline, because of a memorable ad campaign that he came up with. He did the same thing. He did the same thing for Addison. He didn't come up with any kind of fancy, schmancy copy, no flowery copy, no colorful metaphors to steal a line from a particular film that you and I both love.
Yeah.
But he said, Addison, fast, fast, fast relief.
Yeah.
And that's all you needed to know. And that's all you needed to know.
Yeah.
So in a sense, what he came up with back then, he was underscoring the practicality of the ads, not so much, and not so much that, again, it wasn't so copy heavy. So we owe a lot to Ross Reeves in that respect. To make an ad really stand out now, I think if we were to take a look at some of the ads, and this is an interesting development here, you find that the millennials or Generation Z, or whatever you want to call them these days, whenever they look at the ads, particularly the TV ads from the 70s and 80s, they realize, wow, it seemed so much cooler back then.
Yeah.
You didn't, and there was a lot of emotional warmth, and it packed a lot of, because that's what it was all about. If you're selling a product, even now, if you're selling a product, human nature has not necessarily changed it, in the last 4,000 to 5,000 years. If you sell an emotion, not necessarily the product, but if you're selling an emotion, people will respond to it, and they will react to it in a particular way. Whether that emotion is lust, whether that emotion is anger, whether that emotion is fear, you sell that, people are going to respond to it. That's why guys like Roger Ailes, who was an ad man, that's why he did so well with Fox News. He sold fear, he peddled fear, and people responded to it.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because now how things are working now is that the data is fueling what the message needs to say. So the way you say, the emotion is tapping into the fear factor for Fox News. Let's just look at that. Because when the whole thing about Trump and the Russians messing with the election through the advertising on Facebook, everybody's running around like if that's something new. We have known about that since 2010. Marketers, which is what Darren Dudan and us have always said, this whole Cambridge Analytica thing isn't some super duper, what do you call it?
It wasn't some sort of sinister plot designed to undermine.
No, not that. It's not some super villain. The guy who did Cambridge Analytica is not some super villain who is out to destroy democracy as we know it, right? They were just using the tools that were available, and the tools that are available right now is that if I have all this data on you, I know when you click, I know how you click, I know what you clicked on, I know what you're interested in. I could make a user profile of who you are, Jarrod. I know that you went to Pornhub last night. I know these things. Then I can create ads that tailor to you. So I don't need to be ultra creative in the sense of, I still need to prove that I'm better than the competition. Absolutely. So in the case of M&Ms, if I need to advertise M&Ms online now, I gotta be able to still say it melts in your mouth, not in your hand. I still need to say that. Absolutely.
Exactly.
But it's directed to you. It melts in your mouth and your hand. So I have to work on that angle. So then I have to say, if you're hungry, you're feeling hungry right now, because usually around 12 o'clock, I know you start looking for restaurants to go to, or looking for the KFC deal, or trying to order KFC. I'm gonna put an ad saying you don't need to buy KFC today. You could go to what do you call it? You could go to Pizza Hut instead. Because because I already know that you like chicken, so I'm going to give you an ad for pizza chicken pizza. You see,
Yeah.
so
Pretty much.
the creativity is a little, it's still there. Don't get me wrong. We still have to write the ad. You still have to come up with some creative, but it's fueled by talking directly now to a user profile, and people are running around. Oh my God! How y'all know about me? Dude, you've been giving Facebook your information for the last 20 years. You've been using Google for the last 25 years or whenever Google came out. Google, once you signed up, the genius about Google was putting that sign in, that Gmail sign in that you use. Once you have that Gmail sign in, Google is tracking you. So you have used your email to sign up for Facebook. You've used that Gmail to sign up for this thing and that thing. It doesn't know it kind of knows what you're writing in the emails because it's predictive text. But privacy-wise, which is what the European Union is very much trying to combat, which is what the whole Congress was up in arms with last year about, how much data are you all actually collecting? It's staggering. But then when you turn around and say, well, I don't know how they have my data, dude, you signed up for the Washington Post. Google knows that you go to the Washington Post. So it knows what kind of things you're reading. It may not be exactly what you're reading, but they have a general interest that you are in. So they're going to show you an ad. So you go to Amazon and you look at a shoe, and you go to the Washington Post and you start reading about, Nike has slave labor in Asia. Amazon going to show you a shoe for the competitor. You see?
And that's what happens.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Anyway, we're going a real long time with this, and this was just supposed to be a test. I hope this recording actually, because this is awesome. We did a lot of talking here. I just wanna go through it. I think what the format should be, that I think we should do, and for listeners who are probably actually going to listen to this or maybe not, I don't know. I'll have to check the quality before. Obviously, I'll have to do some editing and cleaning up. So I think from now on, if we want to do this, we still have to decide a time when it's convenient for us to do this. And I don't want to go on. I don't want to go on too long because we have other things to do in life. So the talking points which I'll send to you on WhatsApp is the introduction, who we are. We have to do it each time.
We will, yes.
What this show is about. You need to be very clear that we're not talking about, we were talking about current events, but not really.
It's not limited to current events.
Right.
One thing we can tell our prospective listeners is that we are not a lesbian married couple. So that's good.
Ebony and Ivory. Shut up! All right. Okay. So then what I want to do is I want to do the segment on so a word from our sponsor. I want to call it a word from our sponsor. I want to say. And now a word from our sponsor. And I think one of the things, how that will work is different. But what I'm saying is that radio ad I sent you for refrigeration. I think that was a good one to start with.
What the hell is that all about?
Exactly. I have no idea. But what I
I'm still trying to figure it out. There are so many issues regarding that particular ad, and I don't know what it is that we're trying to convey, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I mean, the practicality of it is totally lost on me. I don't know what it is that we're trying to do. I mean, and this is what I miss most about local radio ads. Local radio ads would tell a story, and I mean, for me, the Citizen Kane of local radio ads is the DKS Petroleum Jelly, the bumblebee thing in the eye.
Ah, right.
And, let me tell you something. Hasn't been that ad came out back in 1987. That ad there has been nothing like it before or since. It was funny, it was informative, and people need to hear it, because they need to understand. Because in this day and age, I don't know what's going on, but I just find that I wish we could be a little bit more creative, and a little just have some kind of humor. The element of humor is so sadly lacking, and it's so sad because we have a lot of brilliant writers who can come up with even now who can come up with some really funny stuff, memorable stuff.
Yeah, because you're talking about DKs. There have been radio ads after that we have done, that you have done, that
Yes.
have been very creative, very funny.
Yep.
The one ad that stands out, I don't know who wrote it, but it was for Maggie when they were doing the pre-mixed. Oh, what was it called again? I remember the packaging and I remember what it looks like. I just can't remember the product. But it was the one where you could season, you could make sweet and sour chicken just straight out of the pack, right? And I remember the ad because I remember, and I don't know if it was Asma who wrote it or you wrote it, but I can't remember. I can't remember who wrote it. But I remember that I loved it because all the spiel that was in the ad that was required, what it does, how much it costs, all that nonsense that they wanted put in first. The end of it had me rolling on the ground because the idea was the Chinese restaurant owner is vexed because you are not buying his Chinese food. So he's come to your house to find out why you're not buying the sweet and sour chicken anymore from him. And basically you are the image in my head is you're hiding from the Chinese restaurant owner, and he sees you and he says, I see you peeking through window, and that was the last thing in the ad, and that had me on the ground, and that made me remember the ad. I cannot remember the name of the product, and whoever's out there will probably please comment.
I do remember what you're talking about. Because the same ad itself, maybe this was a different one. There was one that said Chinese style is easy walk, which is a play on the word walk.
Right.
Remember that?
Right. That was the product. That was the product. I can't remember the name of the product.
And God help me, you saw that and you're thinking, wow, okay, this is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
This is how we make everything. This is how it all neatly, because it was a collaborative effort.
Yeah.
We left our egos at the door and we said, okay, this is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to approach it. Bam, bam, bam.
Exactly.
And that's how it works. That's how it's supposed to work.
Right. So this whole thing that we just talked about there is literally format I want to do. So we talk about an existing ad. We kind of talk about why we think it's funny and why we think it doesn't work, or maybe it does work, maybe it's fine. So what we could do is next week we could delve a little bit deeper into that refrigeration ad. I'll play it, so we'll have a record of it, and then
have a record of it.
I'll insert it, and then it brings in our own experience of even an ad that we presented that didn't work or whatever. So. It might have nothing to do with what we're talking about, but exactly what we just said there is the format, right? So we talk a little bit about that. Then I want to see if I could bring in a guest. Now, I don't know how we're doing this because I cannot seem to add a person onto a call here. I don't know if you could add somebody onto a call from your side.
Oh, I don't think so, but we'll try something. We'll work something out.
Because if I could add somebody to the call, then we can bring in a guest. So we'd have to try that one day and do a test for that. I can't seem to. Let me see. If I try Ozma, if I put in Ozma, and then I try to call her, I can't. I don't know if we could. I don't think we do conference calling this way. I might have to do it on my phone and record the phone, which is easy to do, which is still kind of fairly easy to do. So I could do that. It's just to figure it out. And then we have a little guest discussion, right?
Right.
And then we just kind of do a little wrap up. I want to do a little, the line like I always love. You could tell him that I always love Louis Hart's ending line. If it can't be good, be
careful.
Be careful. I think that's awesome, especially in the time of COVID now that things are doing what they do. I think we should do something like that. So I'll leave that up to you. You come up with something. By the way, I always wanted to ask you, who does the stingers? Do you call them the stingers? The you know the
Yes.
103.5 FM. You know.
We were able to, yeah, we spoke to somebody, from abroad, did that. I think the same guy who did the Hot 93 Stingers.
Yeah, because he does
Uh,
sound like that. He does sound like the
yeah,
same guy.
uh, yeah. He's based in Utah,
Oh,
so he
okay.
went ahead and he did that. And
Oh,
I
that's
think it's
cool.
the same person. I could be wrong, but I think it's the same person.
Sounds like the
But
same
yeah,
person. Right. So we need something like that. We need a sign off. You know. Um, but that's not important right now. You know, whatever it is. Maybe some word is maybe I say something like um, we need to go and get some electricity, and then you say what's that, and then I say electricity is something that drives the human production,
but
but
that's
that's
not
not
important
important
anyway.
right now. Then we just end it. I don't know what we could do to end it off. Yeah,
We'll work something out. We'll work
yeah,
something out.
yeah.
It'll come to us.
We think it
The
out.
best creative ideas happen when we're walking, when we're taking a shower, when we're going to the bathroom. Either way, it'll
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. I need to
Yeah,
go to the bathroom, but that's not important right now.
that's not important right now. Ah, there you go.
All right, Jarrod. I think let me go through this and see how it sounds. I'll send you some clips so you can hear how it sounds. But I want to do some more research about how to record this because it was working. I was getting it to work over the weekend, so
Okay.
I need to try to do something else
All right.
to get it to work. All right, Jarrod. Thanks. This was great. This was awesome. I think I could put this
Yes,
out now, but if you're okay with that, we could put
I'm
it
cool with
out
it.
one time, right? Cool.
Cool with it.
Great, Jarrod. Have a good day.
Okay, my great. All
Bye,
right. Have fun.
listeners. We're gone.
Bye, listeners. Have fun.
Hi, Reed. This is Trisha. Thank you very much for the plug for my book. Thank you very much. I think you and Jared are doing a really excellent job considering these local brands. I actually didn't realize how much you could learn about our society just considering what brands we cherish and what brands have lasted the test of time. So I will continue to listen and I hope that other people tune in as well. Great job and thank you very much.